As we get older, we look back at things we used to do growing up that we never thought we missed, but now that we're older, we do miss them. Let's take a look at some things I miss from the 80s. Welcome back to the Junk Room, everybody. It's me, the Junkman, coming back at you with another video. And I'm just kind of reminiscing about some stuff I missed growing up in the 80s. I think I've done this before where I talk more about video games and toys and stuff I missed from the 80s. But this is probably more about just life stuff I missed from the 80s, growing up as a kid in the 80s. Now, I did grow up in the 70s. I was born in 72, but I don't have as much memories of the 70s as do the 80s. I mean, I remember watching Land of the Lost. I remember watching Shazam. Remember that television show and stuff like that. But I was born in the 70s, was a child of the 80s. And I became of age in the 90s. 90s was a pretty good time to grow up also, to be in your 20s, let's be honest. But we're going to look at the 80s today and kind of go over 10 things that I just kind of miss from the 80s. And some of this I never thought I would miss. At the time, I would say, God, I hope this is over. But now I miss it. And let's just start with number 10 on the list. And Friends. No. Not the television show starring Mel Blancs. We're talking about Friends. Sure, I got friends now, or friend, but just not the same. I don't care how many friends you got now, especially you're 50 like me. They're not friends like they were back then. If anybody that watches my live stream knows I do it with my buddy Russ. We've been friends since the 90s, but I'm not going over his house to a sleepover. He's not going to put a tent in his backyard, and we're not going to sleep in it or stay up all night giving each other tattoos. Yep, that's what we used to do. Me and my friend Boyd, another guy named Nicky, American camping out in his backyard in the tent, and we used whiteout to give ourselves tattoos. Whiteout. Liquid paper. We called it whiteout. But liquid paper, I don't know. We take that brush and give us a little, I love whoever on it. But, man, at the time, even some of my friends, I was like, just hanging out with them. I wish I was cooler people to hang out with. Why am I hanging out with these people? But then you're like, man, I never have friends like that again. And, even if you do stay in touch with them, it's just not like it was as a kid, is it? Just not like it was as a kid. Now let's talk music. I don't talk music much on this channel because I know my taste growing up in the 80s is a lot different than most of you watching this video as a kid. Most of you was into Michael Jackson. You were into heavy metal bands like Color Me Bad, and you were into Iron Maiden, that pop group and all that. But I was into country music. I ain't gonna lie. Now it's weird because I was into country music in the 80s into the early 90s, and then when it got popular in the 90s, where everybody laughed at me in the 80s for listening to it, we're now listening to it. In the 80s, I fell in love with Nirvana, Foo Fighters, Veruca Salt, Alanis Morissette, the grunge alternative rock scene, Beck, Black Flag. I even went back and listened to that. A lot of crazy stuff, independent artists and everything. So it was kind of weird. I was kind of a late bloomer to the rock scene, I guess, when most people in their teens were listening to it. I was getting into it in my 20s. And in my teens, I was listening to music about drinking and honky tonks and cheating on your wife and stuff. I was listening to 40-year-old single dad music, but I loved it. Dwight Yoakam, Randy Travis, Steve Earle, Hank Jr., Waylon, the classics, man. But I can remember just laying on my floor, having a little boombox radio or my stereo, waiting for songs to come on the radio so I could record them, making a mixtape, taking the cassette tapes I had. I had a lot of cassette tapes. And I would just take this song off that and make my own mixtapes and everything. I don't know why. Not like I had a car back then. Make mixtapes and everything. And just, I can remember when a new album would come out. It wasn't even the internet. And I would know when it was coming out. I'd be all excited for it. I had a little record shop downtown. I'd go there. First, I would buy the single on a 45 record, take it home, flip it over, listen to both sides over and over again. Then buy that album, listen to every track on it, take the little paper that came out of the cassette tape, read the liner notes, be excited if it had the lyrics in it, see who took the photographs, who wrote the songs. I would know all this information about it. I would just dig myself. When that new, whatever came out, that new album came out for that month, that was it. I was like, I wasn't paying attention to schoolwork or nothing. I was listening to those same songs. And I had this thing where first time I listened to it, I ain't skipping around. Side one, all, and then flip it over side two. Just listen to it. But I kind of miss that. I'll take for granted the music. I was listening to music today and I was like, oh, tired of all this stuff. Next, just hitting next. And And I miss that, just really digging into the music. And there's some artists nowadays that I like, but I just can't dig into it like I was as a kid in the 80s. So I kind of miss that. And here's one I never thought I'd say I missed. People told me I would miss this. And I said, no, I won't. And that's school. Now, I don't miss the schoolwork. Don't get me wrong. I don't miss most of the teachers. I just miss going to school and hanging out. Actually, I think I miss cutting school or playing hooky. What did y'all call it? Some people call it playing hooky. Some people call it cutting school. But I miss school. I just miss hanging out at school. I miss those in-between classes, even high school. You know, going to your locker, you see your buddy, you hang out, you joke around a little bit. Lunchtime, we always had 2 scheduled lunches. Well, one scheduled lunch where half the school would go to lunch at like 11 and the other half would go at 12. And I would always find a way to take 2 lunches so I could hang out with friends and stuff. And it was just hanging out. It was just like a hangout place. Again, I didn't do too good at school. I ain't gonna lie to you. I failed the 2nd grade because I was stupid. I failed the 9th grade because I missed too many days of school because I was just hanging out in the woods. And I almost failed the 11th grade, but I had enough credits to graduate. So I was like 20 years old when I graduated in 93. I was going on 21 years old when I graduated. Hey, but at least I finished, right? At least I finished. But I can't believe I missed school. I said I would never miss it. I said I hated it at the time. I was like, oh, I couldn't stand going, but I miss it. I miss it now. How about this one? Stores with stuff in it. You remember that? I miss going to the store, not really with stuff in it, but when it was, man, it's just like you would go, you go to Kmart. It was just like the store was so huge and there was stuff everywhere that you wanted. You didn't know what was coming out. And it seemed like every time you went to a Walmart, well, I didn't have a Walmart in the 80s. I didn't. I know a lot of you did. Kmart or maybe a store at the mall. It seemed like every time you walked into the store, you could have been there last week. It just seemed like everything was different. I don't know if you just didn't remember it, but it was just so awesome walking. You walk down the toy aisle, Superpowers, Star Wars, He-Man. It's all, hey, you can do that today. That's kind of what they got there, but the half empty pigs. But it was just so special because it just seemed like the whole store was it was like a big event. You go to Kmart. We go to Kmart with my grandma on the weekends. Man, the Blue Light Special, she'd be running over there. We'd be walking around with a big bag of popcorn that you get it. Whenever they get a big bag of popcorn, maybe an icy at Kmart, and it'll be almost an all-day event. It was awesome just to go to the store. It was good. Now, here's one that kind of fits into that school category, or I guess it kind of, I wouldn't say, I put this one as kind of like the Friends category. I'm not talking about the Mel Blanc's here. I'm talking about hanging out with, this is more just hanging out with friends. Now, another one's about the friendship you have that you can talk to your friends and everything. This is more about the hanging out in the woods, again, hanging out in the tent at night, or just friends come over. I never liked a lot of friends. I was always like, bring 1 or 2. Don't bring a lot of people in my house. I didn't like people to spend. I spend night with other people. I didn't really like people to spend night with me much. But come over, play Nintendo. We'll get a new game. Maybe go to Premier Flix, rent a game, play it all day. Oh, try to solve it, and just hanging out with the friends. I guess this is kind of like with the friends category too, but it's more of just hanging out, doing things together. So maybe I shouldn't have put that on the list now that I'm trying to talk about it, but hanging out, and not just hanging out with friends, hanging out with my sister. I can remember me and my sister playing Super Mario Brothers 2, and she never was a video type person, but she played Link, solved it, and I can remember us staying up all night trying to solve Mario 2 and Mario 3. And just hanging out with my brother, playing with the Star Wars stuff, or just hanging out. Just hanging out in general. It doesn't have to be with friends. Hanging out. Here's another one, number 5. How about this one right here? Falling in love. Or your first crush. Or you remember you'd be at school, you're probably, 6th, 7th grade maybe or something. Maybe 12, 13. And there'll be a girl there, maybe a new girl at school, and you would be fascinated by that girl. Maybe if you're into guys, maybe the same way. I don't know. But it was like, that's all you could think about. How can I get this girl's attention? How can I get this girl to like me? Oh my God, you just see her in the classroom. You're like, whew, just feel something, It's like seeing a shooting star. It's just, you don't really get that back. You don't really fall in love or fall in a crush like you do as an adult. Now I see somebody and I was like, ugh. I see all the baggage that come with them. Just keep you drawing me your baggage over there on the other side of the room. I don't need all that. But you just don't, you know what I'm saying? You just don't get that love and crush that you used to. And man, there's some girls I still think about today because, man, it was so powerful. It was like, man, You know what I'm saying? I can't describe it, but you know, it's like a drug. It was like a drug. How about this one? Freedom on my bicycle. Now, I know I got a car, and I got a Freedom, and that car is going to cost about $50 to fill up in gas. But as a bike, it was free to get on, hop on it, to go anywhere. Well, actually, probably in a 10-mile radius is all I ever went, but I felt like I was easy rider. I felt like I could go anywhere, and no cell phone to track me. No one knew where I was. I would go up into the woods. We had a dirt bike track up there, not where you could ride your bicycle, or just ride around, find a path in those woods, end up somewhere on the other side of town that that the road would take you a lot longer to get there. But I found a shortcut. I'm like, where am I? Felt like you were in a whole different world. I can remember going through the bike path one time, and I kind of made my own path. I ended up at a horse stable, and I was like, where am I? And then I found a main road. I was like, none of this looks familiar, but of course it did look familiar. I mean, it wasn't that far. I wasn't going that far, but I never ventured out, and it was awesome. And I just missed that. And as a kid, I thought, man, I can't wait till I get older so I can go do whatever I want to. Then I got older and realized there was nowhere to go, nothing to do. So here's another one through on the list: going out to eat. I know we all go out to eat today, but you remember when that was special? You as a kid, your parents take you out to eat. Maybe it was just us. We didn't go out to eat much. We might get fast food here and there, a little bit more, but out to eat. It seemed like the only restaurant we had in town was Red Lobster. We had a few others. I remember Shoney's or Shakey's. Some here Shakey's. Anybody remember that? But it was like a big event you went out to eat, kind of like when you went to the store. You just like, oh, it was like, give you this big menu. You couldn't really read anything on it. It was all this kind of food you never heard of. Didn't get refills. I don't miss not having. Why didn't we get refills? Why was there no refills in the 80s when you got your soda or your pop, as some of you call it? I call it a Coca-Cola, your Coke, and you never got a refill. They give you some water, free water, but just a big event. You go out to eat, and man, I don't remember if the food was good, but it was just so special to go out. It was like, wow, it was just amazing day. So let's go to one more. And here's one. Today I complain about this. Back then I complained about it, but today I kind of miss it. And that's when there was nothing to do. That's right, nothing to do. I miss nothing to do. You wake up on a Saturday, watch a little bit of cartoons, eat some cereal, lay around the bed, nothing to do. It was great. But the best thing, I mean, I can say I got nothing to do now, but there was nothing, no one expected you to do anything. You laying around all day on a Saturday or during the summertime, there was no school. That was what you're supposed to do. Until you got a little older, it's like, yeah, shouldn't you be working or cleaning up the yard or something? But there was nothing to do. You're 8 or 9. It was wonderful. Then you were like, I'm bored. There's nothing to do. Watch cartoons and play Nintendo. Well, there you go. That's something to do right there. Man, that's something to do. I miss that. I miss this, everybody else paying my bills for me, buying my food for me. I just lay back being lazy, nothing to do. I miss that. I think I skipped one. Let me see here. I did forget one. Playing with toys. Now, I collect toys. I put them back there. I do miss going to my grandparents' house, just laying my toys. I have a Falcon, my Star Wars toys, my Death Star, and just letting my mind explode into my own Star Wars adventure in my head. That was a lot of fun. But anyway, let me know some things you missed in the 80s. That's why I love hearing from you guys, because we're just hanging out talking the 80s today. So let me know. Don't forget, we'll be back with another video, 2 videos a day, one at 12, one at 8. And as always, sub to my channel, thumb up so you like my content. Let me start all over. I screwed all up. Well, I want to thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Thumb up so you like my content. We'll talk again soon.
Hey, Junkman channel popping though.
Thank you, sir, for that unsolicited testimony.